The arrow was already in flight when Kael saw her face. Not the enemy, not the monster his father had described around dying fires. Just a girl, dark hair whipping in the wind, eyes wide with the same terror he felt. The arrow struck the tree beside her head. She didn't scream, neither did he. Across the blood-stained river that separated their worlds, something impossible passed between them. Recognition, understanding, the kind of scene that ends wars or starts them. This is their story. A love that should never have existed. A choice that burned down everything. Stay until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The Arden clan didn't raise children. They forged weapons. Kael learned this before he could write his own name. 5 years old, watching his uncle's funeral pyre turn the winter sky orange. The Viramonts had killed him, slit his throat during a river crossing, left him to bleed out in the shallows where the water ran red for 3 days. Kael's mother held him tight against her chest while the flames climbed higher, and she whispered the words every Arden child heard eventually. Remember this. Never forgive. Never forget. He remembered. By 8, he could track a deer through snow without leaving prints. By 10, he'd killed his first wolf with nothing but a knife and desperation. By 15, he'd stood his first watch on the eastern ridge, where the land dropped away into the valley and you could see clear across to Viramont territory. Those dark forests and stone towers that seemed to swallow light itself. See that? His father pointed across the expanse, smoke from his pipe curling into the dusk. That's where your real enemy lives. Not the wolves, not the cold. Them. They'd gut you for sport and wear your bones as trophies. Don't ever forget what they are. Kael nodded. He'd heard the stories. Everyone had. The Viramonts were monsters wearing human skin. They poisoned wells, burned crops, stole children in the night. The feud went back so far nobody remembered how it started, only that it could never end. Blood demanded blood. Honor demanded loyalty. And loyalty meant hating the right people. At 17, Kael stood 6'2" and carried the kind of quiet that made people nervous. He wasn't loud like his cousins, wasn't quick to anger like his father. He watched, listened, learned. His younger brother Finn said he was boring as dirt, but Finn was 12 and thought everything was boring except sword fighting and stealing honey cakes from the kitchen. You're too serious, Finn complained one morning, lobbing bits of bread at Kael's head during breakfast. You look like you're planning a murder every time someone talks to you. Maybe I am. Kael didn't look up from his plate. Maybe it's you. Finn grinned. You'd miss me. That was probably true. Finn was annoying as hell, but he was also the only person who could make Kael laugh until his ribs hurt, usually by doing something phenomenally stupid like trying to ride the rooster or challenging their grandmother to a wrestling match. Their mother swatted Finn's hand. Stop throwing food. And Kael, your father wants you on the Eastern Patrol today. Reeves sick. Kael's stomach tightened. Eastern Patrol meant the river border. Meant eyes on Viramont land. Meant potential for anything. The border was where truces went to die. Take Darius with you, his mother added. Don't go alone. Darius was his father's right hand. A brick wall of a man who'd fought in the last 3 skirmishes and wore his scars like medals. He didn't talk much, which Kael appreciated. Most of the older fighters loved telling war stories until you wanted to stick your head in a barrel just for the quiet. They left at dawn, 2 horses and enough supplies for a 3-day circuit. The eastern route traced the river from the North Valley down through the contested borderlands where neither side held clear control. Dangerous territory. Neutral ground, technically, but neutral meant both sides claimed it, and neither would back down. The morning was cold enough to burn your lungs. Frost clung to everything, turning the world silver and still. Kael could see his breath, see Darius's ahead of him as they rode in silence through the pine forest that bordered Arden land. Keep your eyes open, Darius said around noon when they'd reached the ridge overlooking the river. Viramonts have been pushing west lately, testing boundaries. Why? Darius shrugged. Why do they do anything? Because they can. Because they want what we have. Because they're looking for an excuse. The river below churned dark and fast, swollen from recent rain. On the far bank, Viramont forests rose like a wall, thick, impenetrable, hiding whatever moved within. Kael had never crossed that river, didn't know anyone who had and lived to talk about it. They made camp that night in a hollow near an abandoned watchtower, a stone ruin left over from some earlier generation's attempt at peacekeeping. Hadn't worked then. Wouldn't work now. Darius took first watch. Kael tried to sleep but couldn't. His mind kept circling back to the same question. What are we even fighting for? Land? They had land. Resources? Enough to survive. Honor? That word got thrown around so much it barely meant anything anymore. He stared up at the stars through gaps in the tower's broken roof and wondered if anyone across the river ever asked the same questions. Probably not. They were monsters, after all. Morning brought fog so thick you couldn't see 10 feet ahead. Darius cursed under his breath as they saddled the horses. Hate this weather. Can't see what's coming. They moved slower, following the river south. Kael's nerves were wire-tight. Every sound felt amplified. Hoofbeats, water, wind through branches. His hand kept drifting to the knife at his belt. That's when they heard it. Voices. Not Arden voices. Darius went rigid, hand up for silence. They dismounted, left the horses tied, crept forward through the underbrush toward the sound. The fog parted just enough to reveal the scene. A small group on the opposite bank, maybe 4 or 5 people. Viramont markings on their gear. The black and silver, the wolf sigil. They were arguing about something, voices sharp but not quite audible over the river's noise. Should we report it? Kael whispered. Darius studied them. They're not crossing. Not yet. But yeah, One of the Viramonts turned. Female. Young. Maybe Kael's age, maybe younger. She looked directly across the river, directly at where Kael and Darius were hidden. She couldn't have seen them. The fog was too thick, the distance too great. But she was staring right at him. Kael's breath caught. Even through the mist, even across the water, he could make out her face. Dark hair pulled back, sharp features, eyes that seemed to cut through everything between them. Not a monster, just a girl. Move, Darius hissed, pulling at Kael's arm. An arrow whistled past them, close enough to feel the air displacement. Then another. They ran. Branches whipped at Kael's face as they crashed through the forest back to the horses. More arrows came, wild shots through fog and trees. None found their mark, but the message was clear. Get out. This is our land. They rode hard for an hour before Darius called a halt, both of them breathing like they'd been underwater. That was close. Darius checked their surroundings, still on edge. Too damn close. If that fog had been lighter. Kael nodded, but he wasn't thinking about the arrows. He was thinking about her face, the way she'd looked across the river like she could see straight through to him, like she was looking for him specifically. He shook it off. Stupid thought, dangerous thought. They completed the patrol circuit and headed home, arriving 2 days later to find the compound in chaos. Apparently a hunting party had spotted Viramont scouts near the western border, too far into Arden territory to be an accident. Kael's father was in the great hall with the other clan leaders, maps spread across the table, voices raised. Pushing too hard. They want to fight. Let them come. We'll be ready. Need to send a message. Show them we won't. Kael slipped past without being noticed. He was good at that, being invisible when it counted. Finn ambushed him in the corridor. Did you see them, the Viramonts? Sort of. Sort of? Come on, you have to give me more than that. Did they look evil? Did they have blood on their teeth? Finn? What? I'm curious. Nobody ever tells me anything real, just the same old stories. I want to know what they're actually like. Just people, Kael thought, but didn't say. Just people. That night he couldn't sleep again. Kept seeing her face. Kept wondering who she was, if she was a fighter or a scout or someone's daughter pressed into service she never wanted. 3 weeks passed. Patrols continued. Tensions rose. A Viramont raiding party hit an Arden supply route, killed 2 guards, stole enough grain to feed a family through winter. Retribution came fast. Arden fighters burned a Viramont outpost, no survivors. Back and forth. Blood for blood. The old rhythm. Kael's mother got quieter. His father got louder. Finn stopped joking as much. They're going to call for volunteers, Darius told Kael one evening. For the war band. Your father wants you. I figured. You ready? Was he? Ready to kill people he'd never met for reasons he didn't fully understand? Ready to become what everyone expected, another Arden soldier in an endless war? Yeah, he lied, I'm ready. But that night, when the compound was dark and quiet, Kael did something he'd never done before. He left. Not permanently, just for a walk, to clear his head. He told himself that's all it was as he saddled his horse, as he rode east in the moonlight, as he made his way back to that stretch of river where the fog had been so thick. The abandoned watchtower stood silent against the stars. Kael tied his horse and climbed the crumbling steps, stood at the top looking across the water into enemy territory. What was he expecting? To see her again? Ridiculous. She was probably miles away, probably didn't even remember that moment when their eyes met through the fog. You're either very brave or very stupid. Kael spun, hand on his knife, heart in his throat. She was standing 10 feet away, inside the tower, like she'd materialized from shadow. The girl from the riverbank. Viramont markings on her jacket, bow slung across her back, moonlight turning her dark hair silver. How did you... I saw you climb up. Figured I should investigate before deciding whether to shoot you. Her voice was steady, no fear in it. She spoke with a northern accent, clipped and precise. Are you here to kill me? No. Are you here to spy? No. Then what? Good question. Kael had no answer that didn't sound insane. I saw you across the river and couldn't stop thinking about whether you were real or just another story we tell ourselves to justify the killing. I don't know, he said finally. She studied him. Even in the dim light, he could see her eyes, gray, like storm clouds, sharp and careful. You're Arden, she said. Not a question. You're Viramont. Yes. They stared at each other. Kael's grip on the knife loosened. She hadn't drawn her bow, hadn't called for help, just stood there, looking at him like he was a puzzle she was trying to solve. I should kill you, she said conversationally. You're the enemy. That's what we do, right? Kill each other on sight. That's what they say. But I don't want to. She said it like she was admitting something shameful. I don't even know why. I don't know you. You could be the worst person alive. I could say the same about you. A ghost of a smile. I guess you could. The silence stretched. Kael became aware of how exposed they were. Standing in an abandoned tower on contested ground, members of two families that would execute them both for this conversation. What's your name? He asked. She hesitated. Giving names meant something. Meant this was real, not just a strange encounter they could pretend never happened. Ilara, she said quietly. Kael. Kael. She tested it, the syllables strange in her accent. That's an old name, traditional. So is Ilara. My grandmother's name. She died in a raid. No emotion in her voice, just fact. Arden raid 20 years ago. The words hung between them like accusation and epitaph. Kael swallowed. I'm sorry. Are you? Now there was heat in her voice. Are you actually sorry, or are you just saying words because it's what people do? I don't know. Both. Maybe. I didn't kill her. But my people did, so I don't know what I'm supposed to feel about that. Ilara moved closer, just a step. Do they teach you to hate us from when you're young? Yes, you? Every day. My father says Ardens are animals, that you don't feel pain like regular people, that you'd gut your own mothers if it meant winning. That's not true. I know. She said it simply. I'm looking at you right now and you're just a person. Scared, confused, same as me. Kael's throat felt tight. This is insane. We shouldn't be talking. No, we shouldn't. If anyone finds out, they won't, unless you tell them. I won't. Neither will I. Another silence. Wind moved through the broken tower, carrying the smell of pine and river water. I should go, Kael said, not moving. Yes, you should. Neither of them moved. Will you come back? Ilara asked. Here, to this place. That would be stupid. Incredibly stupid. Dangerous. Fatal, probably. Kael looked at her, really looked, trying to see the monster his father described, the demon from his mother's warnings. All he saw was a girl about his age, with tired eyes, and questions she wasn't supposed to ask. 3 nights from now, he said. Midnight. Elara nodded slowly. Midnight. Then she was gone, melting back into the shadows like she'd never been there at all. Kael stood alone in the tower for a long time, his heart beating too fast, his mind racing. What had he just done? Arranged a secret meeting with the enemy? Committed treason before anything had even really happened? He rode home in the pre-dawn darkness, slipped back into the compound unnoticed, lay in his bed staring at the ceiling as the sun rose. Finn poked his head in around breakfast time. You look terrible. Are you sick? Didn't sleep well. Bad dreams? Something like that. The next 3 days crawled by like years. Kael went through the motions, training, chores, meals, trying to act normal while his insides twisted themselves into knots. He kept expecting someone to notice, to see the guilt written across his face. But nobody looked. Everyone was too focused on preparations for the coming conflict, on sharpening weapons and reinforcing defenses and telling the same old stories about Viramont atrocities. Kael listened and said nothing. Night 3 arrived. Kael waited until the compound was asleep, then made his escape for the second time. His horse knew the route now, moving sure-footed through the darkness. The tower stood empty. Kael climbed the steps, his stomach in knots, half convinced she wouldn't come. Why would she? It was too dangerous, too stupid, too... You came. He turned. Elara emerged from the same shadow as before, like the darkness itself was delivering her. You sound surprised, Kael said. I am. I thought you'd come to your senses. Did you? Apparently not. She'd moved to the edge of the tower, looking out over the river. I told myself I wouldn't do this, that it was insane, that you were probably lying or planning to ambush me, or I wasn't, I'm not. I know, that's what scares me. She turned to face him. We're being idiots, aren't we? Completely. This can't go anywhere. We both know that. Yeah. So why are we here? Kael had asked himself the same question 100 times. The only answer he could find was terrifying in its simplicity. Because I wanted to see you again. Elara's expression shifted, surprise, then something softer. That's a terrible reason. I know. We're from families that have been killing each other for generations. I know. If anyone finds out, I know! Came out sharper than he meant. Kael took a breath. I know all of it. Every reason this is wrong, but I'm still here. And so are you. They stared at each other. The moon was nearly full, painting everything silver and shadow. Tell me about them, Elara said quietly. Your family. Are they really as terrible as the stories say? Are yours? I asked first. Kael considered. My father is hard, cold, but he loves us in his way. My mother is stronger than anyone gives her credit for. My brother Finn is annoying and loud, and I'd die for him without thinking twice. He paused. They're just people, trying to survive. Same as anyone. Elara nodded slowly. My father leads our Eastern Division. He's a good leader, fair. My mother died when I was young. Sickness, not war. I have 2 sisters, younger. They still believe all the stories about your people. She smiled without humor. I used to believe them too. What changed? You, standing across that river, looking just as terrified as I felt. She moved closer. It's hard to believe someone's a monster when you can see the fear in their eyes. They talked for hours, about nothing and everything. Favorite foods, childhood memories, fears they'd never spoken aloud. Kael learned that Elara loved thunderstorms and hated crowds, that she was an incredible shot with a bow, but terrible at cooking, that she'd once knocked out 2 of her father's guards during sparring and had to apologize for a week. Elara learned that Kael had nightmares about the people he was expected to kill someday, that he couldn't stand the taste of venison, that he'd taught himself to read by stealing his father's old books and studying them in secret. As dawn approached, the conversation turned quieter. This is the stupidest thing I've ever done, Elara said. Same. We should stop, before it gets worse. Yeah. Neither moved. One more time, Elara said. We'll meet one more time, then stop. Agreed? Agreed. They met the next week, and the week after, and the week after that. Each meeting was supposed to be the last. Each goodbye was supposed to be final. It never was. They stopped pretending around the fifth meeting, stopped lying to themselves that this was just curiosity, just a strange friendship born of unique circumstances. I can't stop thinking about you, Kale admitted one night, the words pulled from somewhere deep and honest. I know I should. I know it's dangerous, but I can't. Alara's hand found his in the darkness. I know. Me too. That's when everything changed. When it became not just forbidden, but utterly treasonous. The first kiss happened under a sky full of stars, in a tower that belonged to neither of them, between two people who had no right to feel what they felt. It was gentle and desperate and terrifying. When they pulled apart, Alara was crying. This is going to kill us, she whispered. Both of us. You know that, right? Kyle touched her face, wiped away the tears. I know. We should run, leave all of this behind, just disappear. Where would we go? They'd hunt us. Both sides. I know. She leaned into his touch. I know. But I don't care. I'm so tired, Kale. Tired of hating people I've never met. Tired of being afraid all the time. Tired of pretending this war makes any sense. What are you saying? I'm saying I love you. The words came out broken. I'm saying I love you, and it's the worst possible thing I could feel, and I don't know what to do about it. Kale felt something crack open inside his chest. Alara, don't. Don't say it back unless you mean it. Don't say it just because I love you. Simple, true, devastating. I've loved you since that first night. Maybe before. Maybe from the moment I saw you across the river and realized everything I'd been told was a lie. They held each other as the night grew colder, two people from enemy worlds choosing each other over everything they'd ever known. And somewhere in the darkness, the wheels of war continued turning. Neither of them noticed. Not yet. But they would. Soon. The lies came easier than Kyle expected. Where were you? His father asked one morning, catching him as he slipped back into the compound just before dawn. Couldn't sleep. Went for a ride. His father's eyes narrowed. Alone? At night? That's dangerous. I can handle myself. That's not the point. We're at war, Kyle. You don't take unnecessary risks. If only you knew, Kale thought, but said nothing, just nodded and took the lecture and promised it wouldn't happen again. It happened again 3 nights later, and the week after that, and the week after that. Alara was having the same problem on her side of the river. My father's getting suspicious, she told Kyle during one of their meetings, her voice tight with stress. He asked why I've been so distracted, why I volunteered for night watch so many times this month. What did you tell him? That I can't sleep. That the nightmares are getting worse. She laughed bitterly, which isn't even a lie. I do have nightmares. About losing you. About them finding out. They were sitting in their usual spot, the abandoned watchtower that had become their sanctuary. 4 months had passed since that first conversation. 4 months of stolen moments and whispered confessions and the constant terror of discovery. Kale pulled her closer. We could stop. We could... Don't. Her fingers dug into his arm. Don't say it. I can't stop. I've tried. I've told myself 100 times this is the last meeting, the last time, and then I'm here again because I'd rather risk death than not see you. Alara, do you know what they'd do to me if they found out? My own father would be the one to execute me. That's the law. Family members who betray the clan, especially for an Arden, they don't get trials. They get examples made of them. Kale's stomach turned. Same on my side. My father would see it as the ultimate dishonor. Loving a Vieramont? He'd probably kill me himself just to save face. They sat in silence for a while, the weight of impossibility pressing down on them. Tell me something good, Alara said finally. Something that isn't about war or fear or death. Tell me about, I don't know, your favorite memory from before all this. Kale thought back. I was maybe 7. Finn was still a baby. My mother took us to this clearing in the forest where wild strawberries grew. We spent the whole afternoon there, just the 3 of us. Finn kept trying to eat dirt instead of berries. My mother laughed so hard she cried. He smiled at the memory. It's the last time I remember her being really happy. Before the war ate everything. Elara rested her head on his shoulder. My mother used to sing, all the time. Even when she was sick, even when she was dying, she'd sing these old songs. I don't remember most of them anymore. I wish I did. Sing one, whatever you remember. I can't sing. I don't care. So she sang, quiet and off-key, stumbling over words she'd half forgotten. It was beautiful in its brokenness. Cale closed his eyes and tried to memorize the moment. Her voice, the wind, the feeling that maybe, somewhere in all this darkness, there was still something worth protecting. The sound of horses shattered it. They both froze. Voices carried on the wind, rough, male, getting closer. Patrol, Elara breathed. Viermont patrol. They scrambled apart, Kyle pressing himself against the far wall while Elara moved to the tower's edge, trying to see without being seen. How many? Kale whispered. 4. Maybe 5. She went rigid. They're heading this way. Can we get out? Not without being spotted. The horses are in the open. Kale's mind raced. If they were caught together like this, there'd be no explanation good enough. No lie that would save them. I could surrender, he said. Tell them I came alone. They'd torture you first, then kill you. No. Alara's hand found her bow. We hide. If they come up here, You'll what? Kill your own people to protect me? Yes. No hesitation. I would. Don't ask me to explain it because I can't, but yes. The voices got louder. Kyle could make out words now. Thought I saw movement. Probably just an animal. Should check anyway. Footsteps on stone. Someone was climbing the tower stairs. Elara's bow came up. Arrow knocked. Her hands were steady, but her face was pale. Kale moved without thinking, stepping in front of her. If someone came through that doorway, they'd see him first. Would think he was alone. Maybe that would buy her time to... Wait! One of the voices below, commanding. Stop! The footsteps halted. What? I hear something, north side, something big. A pause. Then the footsteps retreated. Kyle and Elara stood frozen, barely breathing, listening as the patrol moved away. Minutes crawled by. Finally, the sound of horses faded completely. Elara lowered her bow. Her hands were shaking now. We can't keep doing this, she said. We're going to get caught, and when we do... I know. So what do we do? Kyle had been asking himself the same question for weeks. There were no good answers, only impossible choices. We could run, he said. Really run. Take the horses and head for the frontier. There are settlements out there, beyond both our territories. Places where nobody knows our names. They'd hunt us. Maybe. Or maybe they'd be too busy fighting each other to care about 2 deserters. Elara looked at him. You'd really leave? Your family? Your home? Everything? For you? Yes. That's insane. This whole thing is insane. We passed reasonable about 3 months ago. She laughed, sharp and a little broken. When would we go? I don't know. We'd need to plan it. Supplies, route, timing. We'd get one shot. If they catch us during the escape, then we die together instead of separately. Honestly, that sounds better. Kale kissed her then, hard and desperate, trying to pour everything he felt into it. When they broke apart, Elara was crying again. I'm scared, she whispered. Me too. But I'm more scared of losing you. Then we don't lose each other. We plan this right. We survive. They spent the rest of the night sketching out possibilities. Routes through the wilderness, places where they could resupply. How long it would take before anyone noticed they were gone. It felt impossible. It felt like the only option. Dawn came too fast. They separated reluctantly, Elara heading east while Kyle went west, both returning to worlds that felt more alien every day. Kale made it back to find the compound in chaos. Something had happened during the night. Another raid. Another attack. Details were still unclear. His father was in the war room with the other leaders, voices raised in anger. Finn grabbed Kyle's arm as he tried to slip past. Where have you been? Out. What's going on? Viramonts hit the northern outpost. Killed 6 of our people. Took supplies and burned everything else. Finn's young face was hard in a way that made Kael's chest ache. Father's organizing a retaliation. Big one. He wants every able fighter ready to move by tomorrow. Kael's blood went cold. Tomorrow? Yeah. He said we're done playing defense. Time to take the fight to them. That night, Kael rode to the tower knowing it might be the last time. He had to warn Alara. Had to tell her what was coming. She was already there, pacing. Something's wrong, she said before he could speak. My father called an emergency meeting. They're planning something. An offensive. Mine too. They stared at each other as understanding dawned. When? Alara asked. Tomorrow. Yours? Same. Where? I don't know. They wouldn't tell me details. Eastern Front, probably. Where are yours hitting? Eastern Front. The words hung between them, heavy with implication. They're going to clash, Alara said slowly. Both sides planning attacks. They'll run into each other and it'll be a bloodbath. Kael's mind was racing. We have to stop it. How? We can't tell them we know about each other's plans. We can't... She stopped. We could warn them, anonymously. Leave messages that... They won't believe it. They'll think it's a trap. Then what? We just let them kill each other? No. Kael struggled for an answer that didn't exist. I don't know. I don't know. Alara gripped his shoulders. Listen to me. You can't be in that fight tomorrow. Promise me. Whatever happens, you stay behind. Tell them you're sick, injured, anything. I can't do that. If I refuse to fight, my father will know something's wrong. And you'll be there, won't you? On the Viermont side? I have to be. I'm one of their best archers. If I don't show, they'll ask questions. Then I have to be there too, to protect you. Protect me. Kael, we'll be on opposite sides of a battlefield. If we see each other, I won't shoot you. You'll have to. If you don't, someone will notice. And if I don't shoot at your people, same problem. They were talking in circles, no solution in sight. The fight was happening. They'd both be there, and there was nothing they could do about it. We run tonight, Kael said suddenly. Right now. We don't wait. We take the horses and go. We're not ready. We don't have supplies. We don't have a route. We figure it out. Alara, if we're both in that battle tomorrow, one of us might die, or both of us. Is that better than running unprepared? She was crying again. I can't. My sisters, they're too young to understand. If I disappear, they'll think I abandoned them. They'll grow up believing I was a coward. They'll grow up alive. Isn't that what matters? You don't understand. My father, he's hard, but he's fair. If I run, he'll see it as the ultimate betrayal. It'll destroy him. And my family? You think they won't be destroyed when I leave? So we're trapped. That's what you're saying. We're just trapped. And there's no way out. Kael pulled her close, felt her shake against him. There's always a way out. We just have to find it. But as he said it, he couldn't see one. Every path led to death or betrayal. Every choice came with a cost too high to pay. They held each other as the night deepened, two people caught between impossible loyalties. When Alara finally pulled away, her face was set with something that looked like resolve. I'll be careful tomorrow, she said. I'll aim wide. Make it look good without actually hitting anyone if I can help it. You do the same. Alara? And if something happens, if one of us doesn't make it, I need you to know that these months with you were the only real thing I've had in years. Everything else was just existing. You made me feel alive. Don't talk like that. We're both going to survive. Promise me something. If I die tomorrow, don't let it be for nothing. Don't go back to hating them just because they killed me. Remember why we did this. Remember that they're people too. Stop it, his voice cracked. You're not going to die. Promise me, Kael. I promise. But only if you promise me the same thing. She nodded. I promise. They kissed goodbye like it was the last time. Because it might be. Then Alara disappeared into the darkness, and Kael rode home with a weight in his chest that felt like drowning. Morning came cold and gray. The Arden compound was a hive of activity. Fighters checking weapons, horses being saddled, supplies loaded into packs. Kael's father found him in the armory. You ready? Yes. Good. Stay close to Darius during the fight. Watch your back. And remember, No mercy. They wouldn't show us any. Kael nodded, the lie burning in his throat. They rode out in force, maybe 50 fighters, the largest group Kael had seen assembled in years. His father led from the front, Darius at his right hand. Kael rode in the middle, surrounded by men who'd known him since childhood, who trusted him to fight beside them, who had no idea what he was planning. The plan was simple. Hit the Viermont Eastern camp at dawn before they could organize a defense. Take them by surprise. Make them hurt. But as they approached the border, Kael saw something that made his blood run cold. Viermont fighters. Dozens of them. Positioned exactly where the Arden force was headed. They weren't being ambushed. They were riding straight into a prepared defense. "It's a trap," someone yelled. "No," Kael's father shouted back. "They knew we were coming. Someone warned them." The two forces collided like thunder. Kael had trained for combat his whole life, but nothing prepared him for the reality. The noise, metal on metal, screams, horses shrieking, the smell of blood and fear, the chaos of bodies moving, falling, dying. He fought on instinct, blocking strikes, dodging arrows, trying desperately to look convincing while aiming to wound rather than kill. Then he saw her. Elara, on the far side of the melee, bow in hand, firing with devastating accuracy. Not at him, she was deliberately avoiding his section of the field, but she was still killing his people. Had to maintain her cover. Their eyes met across the violence. For one heartbeat, the world stopped. Then an arrow took the man next to Kael in the throat. He went down, choking. Kael spun, trying to find the shooter, and saw Darius engaged with 3 Viermont fighters at once. Losing. Training overrode thought. Kael charged in, blade singing, drove back 2 of the attackers long enough for Darius to recover. "Thanks," Darius gasped. Then Kael saw the archer lining up another shot, aimed at Darius, finger on the release. He moved without thinking, slamming into Darius, taking them both to the ground. The arrow whistled overhead. Darius stared at him. "You just saved my life." Kael couldn't speak, because the archer was Elara, and she'd been aiming at Darius. Would have killed him if Kael hadn't interfered, which meant Kael had just betrayed her to save his father's lieutenant. The battle raged on. Minutes felt like hours. Bodies piled up on both sides. The ground turned to mud and blood. Then a horn sounded. Arden retreat signal. They were being pushed back, outnumbered and outpositioned. Kael's father was screaming orders, trying to organize a withdrawal that wouldn't turn into a massacre. In the chaos, Kael saw his chance. He broke away from the main group, circled around toward where Elara had been positioned. She was gone, but there was blood on the ground where she'd stood. His heart stopped. He found her 20 yards away, behind a fallen tree, clutching her side. An Arden blade had caught her, not deep, but bleeding. "Elara, you saved him." Her voice was tight with pain and something else, betrayal. "You saw me aim at him and you saved him." "I didn't think, you chose. In that moment, you chose them over me. That's not, get away from me." She struggled to stand, wincing. "Go back to your people. I'll go back to mine, and we'll pretend this never happened." "Elara, please." "I said go." The words hit like a physical blow. Kael stood there, frozen, while she stumbled away into the smoke and chaos. He wanted to follow, wanted to explain. But more Viermont fighters were coming, and he was standing in enemy territory wearing Arden colors. He ran. The retreat was brutal. They'd lost 18 fighters. The Viermonts had lost more, but that felt like cold comfort. Back at the compound, Kael's father gathered the survivors. "We were betrayed. Someone told them we were coming. Someone gave them our plans." Murmurs of anger rippled through the group. "We'll find who did this. And when we do..." His father's expression promised violence. "Treason gets one punishment. We all know what that is." Kael felt eyes on him. Suspicious glances. He'd broken away during the battle. Hadn't been where he was supposed to be. That night, he couldn't sleep. Kept seeing Elara's face, the hurt in her eyes, the blood. He'd saved Darius. Chosen an Arden life over a Viermont one. In doing so, he'd proven exactly what Elara feared. That when it came down to it, blood would always win over love. But it wasn't that simple. He'd acted on instinct. Darius had been like an uncle to him. Seeing him in danger had triggered something automatic, years of training and loyalty overriding conscious thought. That didn't make it right. It just made it real. 3 days passed. Kael didn't go to the tower. Didn't know if Alara would even be there. On the fourth night, he couldn't stand it anymore. He rode out, breaking every promise he'd made to himself about staying away. The tower was empty. He waited until dawn. She never came. He went back the next night, and the next. Still nothing. A week passed, then 2. Kael started to think she was really gone, that he'd broken something that couldn't be fixed. Then, on the 15th night, she was there. She looked thinner, tired. The wound in her side was healing, but he could see the stiffness in how she moved. "You came back," Kael said. "I shouldn't have. I'm sorry for what happened. I know." She cut him off. "I know you didn't mean it. I know it was instinct. But that's what scares me, Kael. Our instincts. When everything went to hell, you saved your people and I tried to kill yours. That's who we really are, underneath everything else. That's not true. Isn't it? We can meet in towers and whisper about peace and love, but when it matters, we're still Arden and Vermont. We're still enemies. You're not my enemy. Then what am I?" She moved closer, desperate. "Tell me what I am to you when we're on opposite sides of a battlefield. Tell me how this works." Kael had no answer, just honesty. "I don't know. I don't know how any of this works. I just know I love you, and I know that has to mean something. Love isn't enough. Not against this. Not against centuries of war and hate. So what are you saying? We give up?" Alara's hands clenched into fists. "I'm saying we run. For real this time. No more planning, no more waiting for the right moment. We leave tonight. We take our horses and whatever we can carry and we just go." "What about your sisters? Your father? What about them?" "I can't save them, Kael. I can barely save myself. And if we stay, we're both dead anyway, either in battle or when they figure out what we've been doing." She was right. He knew she was right. "Okay," he said. "Okay. We run." "Tonight?" "Tonight." They made plans quickly. Meet back at the tower in 3 hours. Bring supplies, warm clothes, weapons. Head north into the frontier where neither family had strong control. It wouldn't be easy. It might not even work. But it was a chance. Kael rode home, his heart pounding. He packed carefully, dried meat, blankets, his best knife. Left a note for Finn, though he knew his brother wouldn't understand. "I'm sorry. This isn't about you. Don't hate me." He was saddling his horse when Darius appeared. "Going somewhere?" Kael froze. "Just checking the perimeter." "At midnight? With travel supplies?" "Darius, I'm not an idiot, boy. I've watched you sneak out for months. Didn't say anything because I figured you needed space. But this?" He gestured at the packed bags. "This looks like desertion. It's not like that." "Then what is it like?" Kael met his eyes. Saw concern there, not anger. Darius had always been fair. Always treated him like a person instead of just a weapon. "I can't explain," Kael said. "You wouldn't understand. Try me. I'm in love with a Vermont girl. We've been meeting in secret for months. They're going to find out eventually, and when they do, we're both dead. So we're running. Tonight. And I know that makes me a traitor and a coward, but I don't care anymore because I'd rather be alive with her than dead with honor." The words came out in a rush. Kael waited for the explosion, for Darius to call the guards, to drag him to his father. Instead, Darius just looked sad. "I figured it was something like that," he said quietly. What? You think I don't know what love looks like? You think I haven't seen how you've changed?" He sighed. "I hoped I was wrong, but yeah, I knew." "And you didn't say anything?" "What would I have said? Stop loving her? Love doesn't work like that. Trust me, I know." Kael stared. "What are you talking about? Why do you think I never married? Never had kids?" Darius looked away. "Had someone once. Long time ago. Wrong family, wrong circumstances. I chose duty over her, spent the rest of my life wondering if I made the right choice." The confession hung in the air between them. "Did you?" Kael asked. "Make the right choice?" "I don't know. I'm still alive. She's not killed in a raid 20 years back, so I guess I'll never know if it could have worked." He turned back to Kael. But I know this. Regret tastes like ash, every day for 2 decades. That's what choosing duty got me. So you're not going to stop me? I should. I should drag you to your father right now, but I won't. Because I'm a sentimental old fool who wants to believe someone can make it work. Kael's throat was tight. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just survive. And if you do make it out there, past all this, Darius pulled a small pouch from his belt, pressed it into Kael's hand. That's 6 months of wages. Not much, but it'll help. I can't take this. You can and you will. Consider it payment for saving my life in that battle. Now go, before I change my mind. Kael gripped the older man's arm. I'm sorry for leaving, I know. Now get out of here before someone else shows up. Kael mounted his horse and rode into the darkness, heart pounding with fear and hope in equal measure. He reached the tower at the appointed time. Alara was already there, her own horse loaded with supplies. You came, she said, relief flooding her voice. Did you doubt me? Every second. She managed a shaky smile. Okay, we're really doing this. We're really doing this. They set off together into the wilderness, leaving behind everything they'd ever known. The frontier swallowed them like dark water, and somewhere behind them, dawn was breaking over 2 families who would wake to find their children gone. The frontier swallowed them like dark water, and somewhere behind them, dawn was breaking over 2 families who would wake to find their children gone. They rode hard through the night, putting as much distance as possible between themselves and the river territories. The landscape changed gradually, dense forest giving way to rocky hills, then scrubland dotted with twisted trees that looked like they'd been fighting the wind their whole lives. Kael kept looking back, expecting to see pursuit. Torches in the darkness, riders closing the gap. They won't come yet, Alara said, reading his anxiety. They need time to figure out we're gone, to organize search parties. We have maybe a day before they start hunting. A day isn't much. It's what we've got. They stopped at dawn to rest the horses and eat something. Kael's hands were shaking as he tried to open the food pack. Adrenaline crash. The reality of what they'd done settling into his bones. We can't go back, he said quietly. I know. Even if we wanted to, even if this doesn't work, we're traitors, deserters, yeah. Alara sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. I've been repeating it in my head all night, trying to make it feel real. Does it? No, feels like a nightmare I'm going to wake up from. But they didn't wake up. The sun rose higher and they kept moving, following deer trails through terrain that belonged to no one. By midday, the horses were exhausted. They found a stream, let them drink and graze while Alara checked their supplies. We've got maybe a week of food if we're careful, she said. 2 weeks if we hunt. Can you hunt out here? Can you? Fair point. They'd both been trained to fight, not survive in true wilderness. We'll figure it out, Kael said with more confidence than he felt. They made camp that night in a cave formation that offered shelter from the wind, built a small fire, ate sparingly. The silence between them was heavy with things unsaid. Do you think they've noticed yet? Alara asked. Definitely. My father probably tore apart my room looking for clues. Mine too. My sisters. Her voice cracked. They're going to think I abandoned them. Kael put his arm around her. You left them a note, right? Yeah, not that it'll help. What am I supposed to say? Sorry I'm running away with the enemy, but I promise it's for love? They're 12 and 9. They won't understand. Maybe someday they will. Maybe. But she didn't sound convinced. They slept in shifts, keeping watch for pursuit that didn't come. Not that night. But Kael's dreams were full of his father's face, Finn's confusion, Darius looking sad and old. Morning brought rain, cold and persistent, the kind that soaked through everything. They rode anyway, miserable and shivering, heading deeper into the frontier. Where exactly are we going? Kael asked around noon, water dripping from his hair. North. There's supposed to be settlements up there, trading posts, places where people don't ask too many questions. Supposed to be? I've never been there. Have you? No? Then I guess we're both guessing. They found the first sign of pursuit 3 days later. Alara spotted them first, riders on the horizon, maybe a mile back. Too far to make out details, but close enough to know they were being followed. How many? Kael asked. 6, maybe 7. Ours or yours? Does it matter? She was right. Either clan would kill them on sight now. Probably both clans working together for the first time in generations, united by the shared goal of executing their traitor children. They pushed the horses harder, but the animals were already exhausted from days of constant travel. The gap closed slowly, but inevitably. By nightfall, the pursuit was close enough that Kael could see their torches. 8 riders, 6 with Arden markings, 2 Viremont. They're cooperating, Alara said, disbelief in her voice. They actually teamed up to hunt us. Guess we accomplished something, brought peace to the families. Not the kind we were hoping for. They couldn't outrun them, not with tired horses and limited supplies, which meant they had to lose them or fight them. Fighting 8 trained warriors seemed like suicide. There, Kael pointed to a rocky outcrop ahead. We can hide the horses in those rocks. Go on foot. They won't be able to track us in the dark. It was desperate and probably wouldn't work, but it was all they had. They hid the horses in a narrow canyon, covered the entrance with brush, then climbed. The rocks were sharp and loose, threatening to slide with every step. Alara's side where she'd been wounded was bothering her. Kael could see her wince every time she stretched. You okay? He whispered. Fine, keep moving. They found a ledge about 30 feet up, partially hidden by an overhang. Below, they could hear the search party arriving, voices carried in the still night air. Lost the trail here. Check those rocks. They can't have gone far. Horses are exhausted. Kael recognized his father's voice. And there, that was Alara's father. The 2 men who'd raised them, taught them to hate each other, now working together to kill them. We should split up, his father said. Cover more ground. Agreed. But when we find them, my daughter comes back to Viremont for judgment. The boy is yours. Fine. I want him alive anyway. He's going to answer for this. The search parties separated. Kael and Alara pressed themselves flat against the rock, barely breathing. Below, 3 Arden fighters moved through the rocks, checking every shadow. One climbed to within 10 feet of their hiding spot. Kael's hand went to his knife. If the man looked up, if he saw them. The fighter paused, looked around. His gaze swept right past their ledge. Nothing here, he called down. Moving on. They waited an hour after the searchers left before climbing down. Their horses were still hidden, untouched, but now they knew. The pursuit wasn't giving up. Both families were committed. We can't keep running like this, Alara said. They'll catch us eventually. So what do we do? I don't know, fight? Try to talk to them? They're not interested in talking. You heard them. They want us alive so they can make examples of us. Alara's face was pale in the moonlight. My father sounded cold, like I was already dead to him. Mine too. They rode through the night, pushing northeast toward the rumored settlements. The rain had stopped, but everything was still wet, cold, seeping into their bones. Dawn found them at the edge of a valley where smoke rose from several buildings. A settlement. Small, rough-looking, but definitely inhabited. Finally, Kael breathed. They approached carefully, hands visible, trying to look non-threatening. The settlement was maybe 20 buildings, a trading post, a few homes, what looked like a stable. A man with a crossbow met them at the entrance. State your business. We're travelers, Alara said, looking for supplies and shelter. The man's eyes narrowed, taking in their clan markings. You're a long way from home, both of you. Arden and Viremont don't usually travel together. We're not here to cause trouble. That's what everyone says right before they cause trouble. But he lowered the crossbow. You got coin? Kael pulled out the pouch Darius had given him. Enough. Then you can stay. But any fighting, any clan business, and you're out. We don't take sides here. Understand? Understood. The settlement was basic but functional. They traded coins for food, a roof over their heads, fresh water for the horses. The other residents kept their distance, frontier folk who'd seen enough trouble to know when to mind their own business. That night, sleeping in an actual bed for the first time in days, Kael felt something close to hope. It lasted about 6 hours. He woke to shouting. Alara was already up, bow in hand, peering through the window. They found us, she said. How many? All of them. Both search parties, they're at the settlement entrance. Kyle grabbed his weapons and joined her at the window. Sure enough, 8 riders, demanding entry. The man with the crossbow was arguing with them, but 8 against 1 wasn't much of a contest. We need to run, Kyle said. Where? They'll just follow us again. Then we fight. Against 8? We'll die. Maybe, but at least we'll die together. Elara turned to him, something fierce in her eyes. No, I'm not dying in some frontier settlement. If we're going to die, it's going to mean something. What are you talking about? We go out there, we face them, and we make them see what they've become. Elara, we don't fight, we don't run. We stand there and we make them look at us, make them admit what they're about to do. Execute their own children for the crime of loving each other. It was insane. It was probably suicide. But Kyle found himself nodding. They walked out together, hands empty of weapons, into the settlement square where both search parties waited. Kyle's father saw him first. His face went through several emotions. Relief, then anger, then something harder to read. Kyle, come here, now. No. The word hung in the air. Kyle had never refused a direct order from his father in his life. What did you say? I said no, I'm not coming back. Neither of us are. Elara's father stepped forward. Elara, you don't understand what you've done. The shame you've brought on our family, I understand perfectly, she said. I chose love over hate. I chose a person over a war. If that's shameful, then shame me. You chose Arden. Her father's voice cracked. After everything they've done to us? After they killed your mother? My mother died of sickness, not war. You just needed someone to blame. The words echoed across the square. Several of the searchers shifted uncomfortably. Kyle's father turned to the settlement guard. Give them to us. This is family business. They paid for sanctuary, the guard said. I don't break my word. Then we'll take them. You'll try. Weapons came up. The air went tight with violence about to break. Stop, Kale shouted. Just stop. Look at yourselves. Arden and Viermont working together, something that's never happened in generations. And it's just to kill us. Don't you see how insane that is? You betrayed your clan, his father said. There's no coming back from that. Why? Because I fell in love with the wrong person? Because I dared to see them as human instead of monster? Because you put them before your family? No. Kale's voice was steady now. I put peace before war. I put truth before lies. You've all been fighting so long you forgot what you're even fighting for. Elara stepped closer to him, took his hand. We're not going back. If you want to kill us, you'll have to do it here, in front of everyone. So there are witnesses to what you've become. The silence that followed was suffocating. Kale's father raised his sword. So be it. Wait. One of the Arden fighters, a young man named Garrett, who trained alongside Kyle, stepped forward. Sir, maybe we should... Should what? Let them go? Ignore their treason? I'm just saying, executing them won't solve anything. It'll just be more blood, more death. That's the point. To send a message. To who? Garrett looked around. Everyone here already knows what happens to traitors. Killing them won't change anything except make us murderers of our own children. Murmurs of agreement from some of the other searchers. Not all, but some. Kale's father's face went red. Are you questioning me? I'm questioning whether this is really justice or just revenge. The crack in unity widened. Two of the Viermont fighters exchanged glances. One lowered his weapon slightly. Elara's father noticed. Discipline holds, he said sharply. We discussed this. They've committed treason. The penalty is death. The penalty is what we decide it is, someone else said. An older Viermont woman. Laws aren't stone, they're tools. And maybe this is one case where the tool doesn't fit. You're suggesting we just let them go? After everything? I'm suggesting that maybe, just maybe, they're right. Maybe we've been fighting so long we forgot how to do anything else. The argument escalated. Voices raised. Old grievances surfaced. The unified front crumbled as both sides started questioning not just the execution, but the war itself. Kyle and Elara stood in the middle, watching their actions tear apart the foundations of generations of hate. It might have stayed an argument, might have ended with everyone going home to think. But then Kael's father made his choice. He lunged forward, sword aimed at Kyle's heart, pure rage overriding reason. If he couldn't bring back his son, he'd at least restore honor by killing him himself. Kael didn't move. Couldn't. His father's face twisted with grief and fury, and Darius stepped between them. The blade took him in the chest. Clean through, fatal. Time stopped. Darius looked down at the sword in his body, then up at Kael's father. "Enough," he said, blood bubbling from his lips. "Enough death." He collapsed. Kael caught him, lowering him to the ground. "Why?" Kael's voice broke. "Why did you—" "Told you who wanted to believe someone could make it work." Darius's breathing was labored. "Don't waste it. Don't let this be for nothing." He died in Kael's arms, eyes still open, looking at something Kael couldn't see. The square went silent, everyone staring at what had just happened. Kael's father stood frozen, sword still extended, realization dawning on his face. He'd just killed his closest friend, his brother in everything but blood. Because of blind rage, because of the war that had consumed everything. "Father," Kael said quietly, tears streaming down his face. "Please, look at what this is doing to us. Look at what we've become." His father's sword dropped. The clatter of metal on stone was deafening. But before anyone could speak, horns sounded from the west. More riders approaching. A lot of them. The settlement guard cursed. "That's a war band. Both clans, full strength." Garrett moved to the edge of the settlement, looked out. "He's right. Maybe 100 fighters, Arden and Viermont. They're not searching anymore. They're going to war." "Over what?" Alara asked. "Over you. Both clans blame the other for corrupting their children. This stopped being about bringing you back. Now it's just an excuse to finally finish what they started." The armies approached from opposite sides of the valley, converging on the settlement. On Kael and Alara. Kael's father seemed to shake himself awake. "We need to get out of here before—" "Before what?" Kael stood, still holding Darius's body. "Before they kill each other over us? Before more people die for a lie? This isn't your fault. It's exactly our fault. We lit the match, and now we have to put out the fire. How? By letting them kill you? That won't stop anything." Alara moved beside Kael, her hand finding his again. "No, but maybe the truth will." The armies reached the settlement boundaries. Stopped. Both sides waiting, poised on the edge of violence. Someone would have to speak first. Make the first move. And whatever happened next would determine everything. Kael looked at Alara, saw his own fear reflected back at him. His own desperate hope. "Together?" he asked. "Together." They stepped forward into the space between two armies, two families, generations of hatred, and everything balanced on the edge of a knife, ready to fall into either peace or the bloodiest war the frontier had ever seen. They stepped forward into the space between two armies, two families, generations of hatred, and everything balanced on the edge of a knife, ready to fall into either peace or the bloodiest war the frontier had ever seen. Kael's legs felt like water, but he kept walking. Beside him, Alara held her head high despite the tremor in her hands. Behind them lay Darius's body, a silent testament to where blind hatred led. Ahead, 100 armed fighters from both clans watched with weapons drawn. "Don't shoot!" Kael's father shouted to the Arden forces. "Hold your fire!" Alara's father gave similar orders to the Viermont side, though his voice carried more anger than caution. The two armies stared at each other across 50 yards of open ground, with Kael and Alara standing alone in the middle. The settlement residents had wisely retreated to their buildings, wanting no part of clan business. An Arden commander rode forward, Marcus, his father's war chief. "We received word of Viermont aggression, that they'd kidnapped Kael Arden and were holding him hostage." "That's a lie," Alara's father snapped. "We received intelligence that the Ardens had abducted my daughter, used her as bait to lure our forces into a trap." "Who told you that?" Kael asked. "Anonymous tip. Arrived 3 days ago." "Same with us," Marcus said. "Someone wanted both armies mobilized, wanted this fight." The realization settled over everyone slowly. They'd been manipulated. Someone had fed both sides false information, knowing it would trigger exactly this response. It doesn't matter who, Ilara's father said coldly. What matters is that my daughter ran off with an Arden, betrayed her family, her people. And my son did the same, Kael's father added. The how and why don't change what they did. Kael stepped forward another pace. You're right. We did betray you, both of us. We chose each other over our clans, over the war, and I'm not going to apologize for it. Murmurs rippled through both armies. Shock, outrage, but also, from some of the younger fighters, curiosity. You should be executed for that, someone shouted from the Viermont side. Maybe, Ilara said. But before you do, answer me this. What are we fighting for? Really fighting for? Not the stories we've been told. The actual reason. Silence. Anyone? What started this war? More silence. A few fighters exchanged uncertain glances. That's what I thought, Ilara continued. None of us know. We just know we're supposed to hate each other, that the enemy is evil and we're righteous, and it's been that way forever, so it must be true. It doesn't matter what started it, her father said. What matters is what they've done, the lives they've taken, the blood they've spilled. Blood you've spilled too, Kael said quietly. Both sides. For generations. My mother still cries about an uncle who died 30 years ago. Ilara's grandmother was killed in a raid, back and forth, forever, until nobody remembers why they started swinging in the first place. His father's face was carved from stone. You think love erases that? You think because you two crossed the river to hold hands, suddenly centuries of conflict just disappear? No, but maybe it's a start. Maybe if people can see that we're all just people, then maybe the killing can stop. Naive, Marcus spat. Childish thinking. The world doesn't work that way. Then how does it work? Kael challenged. We keep fighting until one side is extinct? Until we've murdered every last person across the river? And then what? Who do we hate next? No answer. But Kael saw something flicker in some of the fighters' faces. Doubt, exhaustion, the weight of a war nobody chose but everyone inherited. A young Arden fighter, barely 17, lowered his weapon. I'm tired of this. My brother died last year. For what? A border dispute? Resources we don't even need? I don't even remember his voice anymore, just that he died hating people he never met. Coward, someone muttered. No. The young fighter's voice strengthened. Honest. I'm being honest. And if that makes me a coward, fine. But I'm done pretending this makes sense. An older Viermont woman stepped forward. My son thought the same thing, questioned the war, asked why we couldn't negotiate. So I sent him to fight anyway because that's what loyal parents do. He died 3 months later, Arden arrow through the lung. He was 19. She turned to Ilara's father. You want to execute your daughter? Fine. But don't pretend it's about justice. It's about pride. About being too stubborn to admit we might be wrong. Careful, Ilara's father warned. Or what? You'll execute me too? I'm 63 years old. I've lost a husband and 2 sons to this war. What else can you take from me? The dam was breaking. More voices joined in, quiet at first, then louder. Fighters from both sides sharing stories of loss, questioning the endless cycle of violence. Kael's father raised his hand for silence. This is emotional manipulation. They're trying to divide us, weaken our resolve. We're not trying to manipulate anyone, Kael said. We're just asking you to think, really think. Is this war worth it? Is honor worth more than life? Honor is everything, his father said flatly. Without it, we're animals. And what's honorable about what happened to Darius? Kyle pointed back to where his body lay. A good man, your best friend, dead because you couldn't control your rage. Is that honor? His father flinched like he'd been struck. I didn't mean it was an accident. It was the war, Kael's voice cracked. The war killed him. Just like it's killed thousands. Just like it'll kill us if we let it. When does it end? When do we say enough? The armies were wavering. Kael could see it. Weapons lowering slightly, eyes meeting across the divide, doubt spreading like fire. Then a Viermont commander shouted, "This is a trick. They're stalling while reinforcements arrive." Paranoia snapped back into place. Weapons came up again. The moment of doubt collapsed. "There are no reinforcements," Alara said desperately. "We're alone. We're just asking you to—" "Enough talk," her father interrupted. "Alara, you have one chance. Come back to us. Now. Renounce him and return to your family. And if I don't, then you're no longer my daughter." The words hung in the air like an executioner's blade. Alara's face went pale, but her voice stayed steady. "Then I guess I'm not your daughter anymore." Her father's expression crumbled for just a moment, grief and loss flashing across his features before hardening back into stone. "So be it. Marcus, Garrett, take them both into custody. They'll be tried and sentenced according to clan law." "Which law?" Garrett asked quietly. "Yours or theirs. They've both committed the same crime. Who gets to execute them?" "We'll discuss—" "No," Kael's father said. "My son is mine to judge. The girl goes to Viramont." "Absolutely not. Alara returns to us." The two leaders glared at each other, the fragile cooperation already splintering. "You want to fight over who gets to kill us?" Alara's voice was sharp with bitter humor. "That's fitting. That's exactly what this whole war has been about. Not justice, not protection, just who gets to hurt who." "Watch your tongue." "Or what? You'll disown me again? Too late." She turned to address both armies. "Look at yourselves. You're so focused on punishment, you can't even agree on basic facts. You've been enemies for so long, it's all you know how to be." "She's right," said a voice from the Arden side. A woman Kael recognized, his mother's sister, Aunt Sarah. "We're so busy being angry, we've forgotten what we're actually protecting. Our children? They're standing right there and we're threatening to kill them. Our honor? We lost that years ago." "Sarah, that's enough," Kael's father warned. "Is it? Really? Because from where I'm standing, we look like fools. Both clans, following the same patterns our parents followed and their parents before them, never questioning if maybe, just maybe, there's a better way." More fighters were nodding now. Not everyone. Not even most. But enough that the unity was fracturing on both sides. Marcus made a decision. "We need to resolve this, now, before it escalates further." "Agreed," said the Viramont commander. "Proposal. We settle this the old way. Trial by combat. The boy fights for the Ardens, the girl for Viramont. Winners take their fighter home. Losers accept the judgment." "No," Kael said immediately. "We're not fighting each other." "Then you forfeit. Both of you die." "If that's what it takes to not become what you want us to be, fine." Alara gripped his hand. "Kael, I won't fight you. I won't prove their point that this is all about violence and strength. I won't." She squeezed tighter. "I know. Neither will I." The commanders exchanged looks. This wasn't going according to any script they knew. "You'd rather die than fight?" Marcus asked. "We'd rather die than become you," Alara said simply. The words stung. Kael saw it in the faces around them. Shame, anger, confusion. These were people who'd built their entire identities around being warriors, and here were two kids refusing to pick up weapons. Kyle's father stepped forward. "Fine. If you won't fight, we'll execute you together. Both clans, joint decision. At least that way we agree on something." He drew his sword. Others followed suit, a forest of blades rising on both sides. This was it. The end. Kael felt strangely calm. At least Alara would be with him. At least they'd die for something real instead of a lie. Then Finn pushed through the Arden ranks. "No!" His young voice cracked with emotion. "You can't kill him!" "Finn, get back!" "No, I won't! He's my brother! He's your son! How can you just—" Finn was crying now, ugly sobs that shook his whole body. "I don't care what he did. I don't care who he loves. He's Kael and he taught me to ride, and he stayed up with me when I had nightmares, and you're going to murder him because of some stupid war?" The boy's grief was raw and devastating. Several of the Arden fighters looked away, unable to meet his eyes. Kael's father's sword wavered. "Finn, you don't understand. I understand that you're choosing pride over family, that you'd rather have a dead son than admit you might be wrong." On the Viramont side, one of Alara's sisters had broken through. The younger one, maybe 10 years old. She ran to Alara, wrapped her arms around her waist. "Don't let them take you," she sobbed. "Please don't leave again." Alara knelt, held her sister. "Mira, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. but I can't be who they want me to be. I can't hate people just because I'm told to. Then I won't either. Mira turned to her father. If you hurt her, I'll never forgive you, ever. You'll have killed my sister, and I'll hate you forever. The child's words cut deeper than any blade. Alara's father actually stepped back, his face stricken. You don't mean that? I do. You're being mean and cruel, and I hate it. I hate all of this. More children were pushing forward now, siblings, cousins, young fighters barely old enough to hold weapons. A tide of youth confronting the old guard. I'm tired of being afraid, one said. I'm tired of funerals, another added. I don't even know why we're fighting anymore. The older generation looked around, seeing their children's faces, seeing the cost of their war written in tears and defiance. Garrett spoke up again. Maybe they're right. Maybe we've been wrong. Careful, Kael's father said, but his voice had lost its edge. No, I'm done being careful. I'm done pretending this makes sense. Garrett threw down his weapon. The clatter was shockingly loud. I won't fight this war anymore. If that makes me a traitor, fine. But I'm out. Another fighter dropped their weapon, then another. The defection spread like a contagion. Not everyone, many of the older, hardened fighters kept their weapons ready. But enough. Enough to show that the consensus was breaking. Kael's father looked at the growing pile of discarded weapons, at his younger son crying, at Darius's body still lying in the dirt. Something in him finally cracked. What do you want from me? The question was directed at Kael, but it sounded like he was asking the universe. What would you have me do? Forget everything? Forgive everything? No, Kael said. Just stop. Stop the killing. Stop teaching children to hate. Stop sacrificing lives for honor that died generations ago. And then what? We just live next to each other? Pretend nothing happened? We try, we fail, we try again. We build something new instead of tearing each other apart. His father looked old suddenly, ancient, the weight of decades pressing down on his shoulders. I don't know if I can do that. Then learn. We're all going to have to learn. Alara's father had been silent, watching. Now he spoke, his voice rough. If we stop fighting, others will see it as weakness. They'll attack. The frontier clans, the northern territories. They'll sense vulnerability and strike. Maybe, Alara said, still holding her sister. Or maybe they'll see strength. Maybe they'll see that it takes more courage to choose peace than to keep swinging swords at shadows. You're asking us to gamble everything on a hope. You're already gambling everything on hate. How's that working out? No one had an answer. The standoff continued, not with weapons raised, but with two ideologies staring at each other across an unbridgeable gap. Then the settlement guard stepped forward, the man who'd first met Kael and Alara at the gate. I've lived on the frontier for 30 years, he said, watched Arden and Viermont kill each other in every way imaginable. You know what I've learned? Neither side is evil. Neither side is right. You're just people hurting people because people hurt you first. And it won't stop until someone chooses to stop it. Easy to say when it's not your family, Marcus challenged. It was my family. I'm Arden born. Left when I was 20 because I couldn't stomach it anymore. My brother called me a coward. Probably still does. But I'm alive and he's not. He died 5 years ago in a border skirmish that accomplished nothing except adding another body to the pile. The guard walked over to stand beside Kael and Alara. These kids are braver than any of us. They chose love knowing what it would cost. That's not cowardice. That's the kind of courage that actually changes things. Sarah joined them next. Then Garrett, then the young fighter who'd first spoken up. One by one, people from both clans moved to stand with them. Not everyone, not even half, but a visible group. Arden and Viermont mixed together, standing on the same side for the first time in living memory. Kael's father watched his forces split, watched his own sister choose his son over his orders. This is mutiny, he said, but there was no heat in it, just exhaustion. This is evolution, Sarah replied. The world is changing. We can change with it, or die clutching our grudges. Your choice. The armies faced each other, smaller now, with the moderates having stepped aside. What remained were the true hardliners, the ones too invested in the war to imagine anything else. We could still fight, the Viermont commander said, force them back into line. And prove the children right? Alara's father shook his head. That we're too stubborn to see reason? Too proud to admit when we're wrong? So you're surrendering? I'm choosing my daughter's life over my pride. Finally. He looked at Alara. I may not understand your choice, may not forgive it for a long time, but I won't kill you for it. It wasn't acceptance, it wasn't reconciliation, but it was a crack in the armor. Kael's father stood silent for a long moment. Then he lowered his sword. Stand down, he ordered. All of you, stand down. The Arden fighters hesitated, then obeyed. The Viramont followed suit. The battlefield that wasn't emptied slowly. Fighters from both sides returning to their camps, some casting uncertain glances back at the group standing in the middle, the defectors, the moderates, the ones choosing something different. Kael's father approached slowly. He looked at his son, at Darius's body, at Finn still crying. I don't know how to do this, he admitted quietly. Don't know how to be a father to a son who chose the enemy. Then we figure it out together, Kael said. That's all I'm asking. A chance to try. No promises. No guarantees things will work. I know. And if this backfires, if your choice leads to more death, then it's on me. I'll accept that. His father nodded slowly. You've grown up. Somewhere when I wasn't looking, you became a man. Just not the man I expected. Maybe that's okay. Maybe. Alara's father hadn't moved to join them, but he'd stopped looking like he wanted to execute anyone. That was progress. We'll need time, he said, to process this, to figure out what comes next. Take all the time you need, Alara said. We're not going anywhere. Yes, you are, her father replied. Not permanently, but you can't stay in the settlements. Not yet. There are too many who still want you dead. You need to go somewhere safe while things settle. Where? He hesitated. There's an old hunting lodge, north of here, abandoned. My father used to take me there before the war consumed everything. No one goes there anymore. He pulled out a rough map, marked a location. Stay there, 6 months. Let the clans adjust. Let the hardliners calm down. Then, we'll see. It was exile, but voluntary, survivable. Kael looked at Alara. She nodded. 6 months, Kael agreed. The group of defectors, maybe 30 people total, stepped forward. We'll go with them, Garrett said. Help them get established. Prove this can work. That's desertion, Marcus pointed out. Then arrest me, but I'm going. In the end, no one stopped them. Both clan leaders were too tired, too uncertain to force the issue. The group gathered supplies, buried Darius with honors from both clans, the first joint funeral in generations, and prepared to leave. Finn hugged Kael so tight it hurt. Come back, he whispered. Please come back. I will, I promise. Alara's sisters did the same with her, extracting similar promises. As they prepared to ride out, Kael's father pulled him aside one last time. Darius gave you money, didn't he, for this? Yes. How did you... I knew him for 40 years. I know how he thought. His father's eyes were red. He believed in you. In this, more than I did. Maybe he was right to. I'm sorry about him, about all of this. Me too. His father gripped his shoulder briefly. Don't make me regret not executing you. I'll try not to. The group rode north as the sun set, leaving behind 2 clans fractured but not destroyed, divided but not at war. It wasn't peace. It wasn't even a truce, but it was a pause, a moment to breathe. And sometimes that was enough to start with. The hunting lodge was exactly as advertised, old, isolated, surrounded by forest. They arrived after 4 days of travel, 30 people from enemy families learning to coexist in close quarters. It was awkward, tense. The first week, fights broke out twice over stupid things, who got which sleeping area, whose turn it was to hunt. But slowly, impossibly, they started to work together. Arden and Viramont building fires side by side, sharing meals, trading stories. Kael and Alara watched it happen with something like hope. Think it'll last? She asked one night, lying in his arms under stars that didn't care about clan boundaries. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. But we did something, right? We changed something. We survived. That's more than most people thought we could do. So what now? Now we build, we learn, we prove that love can be stronger than hate, or we die trying. Kael kissed her forehead. Not the most optimistic plan. It's realistic, which is better than optimistic. In the camps back at the frontier settlements, soldiers from both clans were talking, questioning, some angrily defending the old ways, others cautiously exploring new possibilities. Seeds of doubt had been planted. Whether they'd grow into change or wither into nothing remained to be seen. But for the first time in generations, people were asking questions instead of just following orders. And in a small hunting lodge surrounded by wilderness, 30 people from 2 enemy families were proving that coexistence was possible. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy. But it was a beginning. 3 months into their exile, the hunting lodge had transformed from a collection of suspicious enemies into something resembling a community. Not a perfect one. Arguments still flared. Old prejudices surfaced in unexpected moments. And twice someone had to physically separate fighters before fists started flying. But they were learning. Kael woke one morning to find Garrett teaching a Viremont woman named Lysa how to repair damaged armor using Arden techniques. The week before, Lysa had shown Garrett's sister how to weave waterproof rope from frontier grass. Small exchanges, practical cooperation born from necessity. But it was something. "They're getting comfortable," Alara observed, watching from the lodge's main room. "That's good, right? Unless comfortable means complacent." Kael checked their supply inventory. "We're running low on dried meat, and the medicine stores are almost gone. I'll take a hunting party out tomorrow. Make sure it's mixed, Arden and Viremont together." She smiled slightly. "Look at you, community organizer." "Someone has to be. Otherwise this falls apart the second things get difficult." Things got difficult 2 days later when a rider arrived from the south. Young, barely 18, wearing neutral frontier clothes but speaking with an Arden accent. "Message for Kael Arden," he said, dismounting. "From your father." Kael's stomach tightened. 3 months of silence, then this. He broke the seal on the letter and read while the entire lodge gathered around. "The hardliners are organizing, both clans. They formed a coalition, Arden and Viremont traditionalists working together to restore honor. They're planning to march on your location within the month. Consider this a courtesy warning. Your father." "Well," Garrett said quietly. "That's not good." Alara read over Kael's shoulder. "How many?" "Doesn't say. But if both clan hardliners are cooperating, could be 50 fighters, maybe more. We're 30 people. Half of us barely trained." "I know." The lodge erupted into worried conversation. Some wanted to run immediately. Others argued for fortifying their position. A few, mostly younger fighters, wanted to prepare for battle. Kael raised his hand for quiet. "Running means we've failed. Everything we've tried to build, everything we've proven here, it dies if we scatter." "Better scattered than dead," someone pointed out. "Is it? We came here to prove coexistence was possible. If we run the second things get hard, what does that prove? That we're smart enough to survive? That we're cowards who only believed in peace when it was convenient?" Alara stepped forward. "Kael's right. We can't run, but we also can't fight them. Violence just proves their point, that this was always about weakness, not strength." "So what do we do?" Lysa asked. "Stand there and let them kill us?" "We make them see what they're about to destroy. We show them what we've built." "How?" Alara looked at Kael. They discussed this scenario late at night, planning for a threat they'd hoped would never materialize. "We invite them," Kael said. "All of them. Hardliners, moderates, clan leaders. We send messages to both territories inviting them to see what we've created here. Judge for themselves whether it's worth destroying." "That's insane," Garrett said. "You want to bring the people planning to kill us directly to our doorstep?" "Yes, because if they see us, really see us, maybe they'll hesitate. Maybe doubt will crack their certainty. And if it doesn't, then at least we tried everything before the end." The vote was close, 16 for Alara and Kael's plan, 14 against. But it passed. They sent riders to both territories with identical messages. "Come see what you're planning to destroy. Judge with your own eyes whether we deserve execution or understanding. 3 weeks from today." The waiting was brutal. Every day felt like a year. They continued their routines, hunting, building, training, learning, but tension hung over everything like storm clouds. Kale found himself unable to sleep most nights. He'd lie awake listening to Alara breathe, wondering if he'd condemned everyone here with his stubbornness. Maybe running would have been smarter. Maybe survival mattered more than principles. "Stop thinking so loud," Alara murmured one night. "I can hear your brain from here." "Sorry." "You're doubting." "Wouldn't you?" She rolled over to face him. "Every minute. But then I look around and see Garrett and Lissa laughing together. See your people and my people sharing meals without checking their backs for knives. And I think maybe we're not completely crazy. Maybe is a pretty thin thing to bet our lives on. It's all we've ever had." The first clan representatives arrived 2 weeks later. Not armies, small delegations. Kyle's father led the Arden group with Sarah and 2 council members. Alara's father brought 3 Viramont elders and one of her sisters. Mira ran to Alara the moment she saw her, nearly knocking her over. "You're alive. You're really alive. Father said you were, but I didn't believe him until I saw you." Alara held her sister tight, crying. "I'm here. I'm okay. And you're not leaving again? Not if I can help it." The delegations toured the lodge community warily. Kyle could see them taking inventory. The mixed sleeping quarters, the shared workspaces, the Arden and Viramont symbols hanging side by side in the common areas. "This is what you've built?" his father asked. "This is what we've all built," Kyle corrected. "Together. Arden and Viramont working toward the same goals instead of against each other. For 3 months. That's hardly proof it's sustainable. It's more proof than you have that war works. How many decades have you been fighting? What has it accomplished except filling graves?" His father's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. Alara's father examined the communal kitchen where fighters from both clans were preparing the evening meal. "You share food, resources?" "Everything," Alara said. "We contribute based on ability and take based on need. No one hoards, no one goes hungry." Sounds like fantasy. Sounds like survival. Which is what this is. 30 people figuring out how to not kill each other. It's not perfect. We argue. We disagree. Last week, 2 people almost came to blows over hunting territory. But we talked it out, found compromise. Nobody died. Yet, one of the Viramont elders added darkly. That evening, they gathered everyone in the main lodge for a formal presentation. Kyle had prepared remarks, practiced them for days. But when he stood before the assembled delegations and community members, the prepared words felt hollow. He spoke from the heart instead. 3 months ago, we came here as refugees, outcasts. People both our clans wanted dead for the crime of loving each other. We expected to hide here until the anger burned out, or we died trying. Instead, something unexpected happened. We built something new. Not Arden or Viramont, but something that takes the best of both and leaves the worst behind. He gestured around the room. These people were raised to hate each other, taught from childhood that the enemy was inhuman, monstrous, deserving only of death. But when you actually live with someone, when you share meals and stories and work, it's harder to see them as a monster. You start seeing them as a person, Garrett finished. Just a person trying to survive, same as you. Sarah stood. I've watched my nephew these past 3 months. Watched him grow from a boy confused about his place in the world into a man building a new world entirely. And I've watched people I was taught to fear become people I respect. That's not weakness, that's evolution. It's betrayal, said a Viramont elder, of everything our ancestors fought for. Our ancestors fought because they inherited a war they didn't start, Alara countered, just like we did, just like our children would have. When does it end? When does someone finally say enough? When one side wins decisively. There is no winning, Kael's voice rose. Don't you see that? This war doesn't have a victory condition, just an endless cycle of revenge. You kill one of ours, we kill 2 of yours. You kill 4 of ours, forever, until we're all dead or too exhausted to lift our weapons. That's not winning, that's mutual destruction. So you'd have us surrender, accept defeat? I'd have you accept peace. There's a difference. The argument continued late into the night. The delegations pressed them on logistics, sustainability, what happened when resources ran short, or disputes couldn't be resolved peacefully. Kael and Alara had answers, not perfect ones, but honest ones born from 3 months of trial and error. Finally, exhausted, they called an end to the discussion. The delegations would sleep on it, give their assessments in the morning. Kael found his father outside, staring at the stars. I don't know if I can do this, his father said quietly. Don't know if I can let go of everything I've believed, everything I've fought for. I'm not asking you to forget it, just to consider that maybe there's another way. And if I can't, if the war is too deep in my bones to dig out, then at least don't destroy what we're building here. Let us try. Let us prove it can work on a larger scale. His father turned to face him. The hardliners are still coming. The moderates in both clans managed to delay them, but not stop them. 2 weeks, maybe less. When they arrive, no amount of talking will change their minds. They want blood. Then we'll find another way. What way? You can't fight them. You don't have the numbers or the experience. We'll think of something. His father gripped his shoulder. I hope you're right, because if you're not, I'll have to watch them kill my son, and I don't know if I can survive that twice. Twice? I already killed you once, in my heart, when you left, mourned you like you were dead, having you back, seeing you alive, and he struggled for words. Seeing you happy. That's harder than I expected, because it means admitting I was wrong. About you, about the war, about everything. You weren't wrong about everything, just about who the real enemy was. The delegations departed the next morning with promises to report back to their clans. Kael couldn't read whether they'd been convinced or were just being polite before the execution. 10 days later, the hardliners arrived. Not 50 fighters, more than 100. Arden and Veermont riding together under a joint banner, united in their determination to destroy the corruption at the hunting lodge. The lodge community watched them approach from the ridgeline, armed, armored, ready for violence. We can't fight that, Lissa said quietly. We'll be slaughtered. We're not fighting, Kael said. Remember the plan. The plan assumes they'll listen. Then we make them listen. As the hardliner force reached the clearing before the lodge, Kael and Alara walked out to meet them, alone, unarmed. The hardliner commander, a scarred Arden veteran named Hrothgar, sneered at them. Surrendering already? Smart. We're not surrendering, Alara said. We're inviting you to stay. See what we've built. Understand what you're about to destroy. We know what you've built. Treason. Weakness. A mockery of everything our clans stand for. Then prove us wrong, Kael challenged. Stay for 3 days, just 3 days. If after seeing how we live you still believe we deserve death, we won't resist. But at least see the truth before you make that judgment. Hrothgar looked at his fighters. Some nodded. Others looked uncertain. 3 days. But we stay armed. And if we see any sign of deception, you won't. We have nothing to hide. The hardliners set up camp at the clearing's edge. For 3 days, they watched, observed, witnessed Arden and Veermont working together, eating together, living together without constant violence. Some hardliners remained unmoved. Others started asking questions. On the second day, a young Veermont hardliner approached Garrett during weapon maintenance. Why'd you leave? He asked. You were one of our best fighters. Because I was tired of fighting people who reminded me of myself, Garrett said honestly. Tired of killing for reasons I didn't believe in anymore. You don't believe in honor? I believe honor has to mean something beyond just following orders. These people here, they've shown me what real honor looks like. Choosing the harder path. Building instead of destroying. The young fighter looked troubled. My father died in the war. Arden raid, I was raised to avenge him. And if you kill Kael or Alara, will that bring your father back? Will that make you feel better, or just perpetuate the cycle that killed him in the first place? No answer. But the questions had landed. By day 3, the hardliner unity was cracking. Arguments broke out between those ready to execute and those having second thoughts. Hrothgar called for a final gathering. Everyone assembled in the clearing, hardliners, lodge community, even some of the delegations who'd returned to witness the confrontation. We came here to restore honor, Hrothgar announced, to punish those who betrayed our clans. But I'll admit, what I've seen here has confused me. You all seem functional, working together, not the chaos and weakness I expected. Because it's not weakness, Sarah said, stepping forward. It's strength, the kind of strength that takes real courage, choosing peace when you've been trained for war. But at what cost? Our traditions, our identity, everything that makes us who we are, you want us to abandon all of it? No, Kael said. Keep what's good. The loyalty, the courage, the community. But leave behind the hate, the endless revenge, the teaching children to fear and despise people they've never met. A hardliner woman spoke up. I lost 3 brothers to Viramont raids. You want me to just forgive that? No, Alara said gently. I want you to stop creating more sisters who'll lose more brothers. The grief won't end if we keep adding to it. The woman's face crumpled. I don't know how to let it go. None of us do. We're all figuring it out together. Hrothgar looked around at his fractured force. This was supposed to be simple. Execute the traitors, restore order, but you've made it complicated. Life is complicated, Kael said. War just pretends it's simple by making everything about us versus them. But these past 3 months have proven it doesn't have to be that way. 3 months isn't a lifetime. It's a start. The hardliner commander stood silent for a long moment. Then he made a decision that surprised everyone. Vote, he said. All of us. Hardliners and community members. We vote on whether to execute them or accept what they've built. Majority decides. It was more than Kael had hoped for. He'd expected violence, not democracy. The vote took an hour. People speaking their minds, sharing stories, arguing passionately on both sides. When the count came in, it was close. Brutally close. 54 in favor of accepting the community and its principles. 49 in favor of execution. 5 abstentions. Hrothgar looked at the numbers. Closest vote I've ever seen, but majority is majority. He turned to Kael and Alara. You live, for now. But this doesn't mean everything's solved. There are still plenty who want you dead. You'll be looking over your shoulders for years. We know, Kael said, but we're used to that. The hardliners departed, some grudgingly accepting the vote, others still muttering about betrayal and dishonor. But they left. That was what mattered. In the weeks that followed, more people from both clans made the journey to the lodge. Some came to condemn. Others came curious. A few came to stay. The community grew. Not explosively. Change came slow and painful. But it came. 6 months after their exile began, Kael and Alara received another message. This one from both clan councils, signed by both leaders. You may return, not as Arden or Viramont, but as representatives of something new. Help us build bridges between our territories. Show others what you've shown us. Prove this can work beyond one isolated lodge. They returned to find the territories still divided, still wary of each other. But the border crossings were no longer exclusively violent. Trade had begun, small at first, just basic necessities. Dialogue had opened. Skeptical, halting dialogue, but dialogue nonetheless. Finn tackled Kael the moment he saw him. I knew you'd come back. I told everyone you would. Did you doubt me? Every single day. But I hoped harder than I doubted. Alara's sisters surrounded her with similar enthusiasm. Even her father managed something that might have been a smile. Don't expect miracles, he warned. Most people still think you're crazy. Some still want you dead. This peace you're building, it's fragile. Could shatter any moment. Everything worthwhile is fragile, Alara said. That's what makes it worth protecting. Over the following year, Kael and Alara traveled between territories, mediating disputes, teaching cooperation, building the framework for what might eventually become actual peace. It wasn't easy. Setbacks happened constantly. A border dispute erupted into violence, killing 3 people before they could intervene. A hardliner group attempted an assassination that left Alara with a scar across her ribs. Trust built over months could evaporate in moments, but they persisted. And slowly, agonizingly slowly, the culture began to shift. Children who'd been taught to hate started questioning why. Fighters who'd lost family members to the war started wondering if revenge really made the grief lighter. Clan leaders began seeing the economic and social benefits of cooperation over conflict. 2 years after their exile, the clans held the first joint council meeting in recorded history. Arden and Viramont leaders sitting at the same table, hammering out agreements on trade, resource sharing, dispute resolution. Kael and Alara attended as observers, watching history being made. We did this, Alara whispered. We started it, Kael corrected. They're finishing it. Think it'll last? Honestly, I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. But even if it falls apart tomorrow, we proved it was possible. That's more than anyone believed when we started. The meeting ended with a formal declaration. Not quite peace, not yet, but a commitment to pursue alternatives to violence. To teach children cooperation alongside combat. To remember that the enemy wore faces and had families and bled the same red. That evening, Kael's father found him on the terrace overlooking the river that had separated their worlds for so long. Darius would have loved this, his father said quietly, seeing both sides actually talking instead of killing. He made it possible. The money he gave me, the chance to run. Without that, we'd both be dead. He always saw further than the rest of us. Used to tell me I was too stubborn for my own good. He was right. His father gripped the railing. I'm trying, Kael. Trying to let go of the anger. Some days it works. Some days I wake up and the first thought in my head is still about vengeance. But I'm trying. That's all any of us can do. You've become someone I'm proud of, despite everything. Maybe because of everything. You're a better man than I was at your age. Better than I am now. The words hung in the air between them, awkward and honest and more than Kael had ever expected to hear. Thank you, he managed. His father nodded once, gruffly, then walked away before emotion could overwhelm him. 3 years after their exile, Kael and Ilara married. Not in secret, in a tower that belonged to no one, but in public, with witnesses from both clans, in a ceremony that blended Arden and Viramont traditions into something entirely new. Finn stood beside Kael as his best man. Ilara's sisters surrounded her, crying happy tears. Both fathers attended. Both gave their blessing, however reluctantly. It wasn't the ending they'd imagined when they first met across a river of blood and suspicion. It was better. Messier, harder won, scarred by conflict and loss, but real. The territories never became fully unified. Some division remained, old wounds that would take generations to fully heal, if they ever did. Hardliners on both sides still preached the old ways. Violence still flared occasionally, but it wasn't war. Not anymore. Just the painful process of two cultures learning to coexist, stumbling and falling and getting back up. 5 years after their exile, Kael and Ilara stood at the rebuilt watchtower, their watchtower, where everything had begun. Someone had restored it, turned it into a monument, a reminder of where peace started. Ilara's hand rested on her stomach, where their child grew. Boy or girl? Kael asked. Don't know yet. Does it matter? Not even a little. Just curious what we're supposed to teach them. The truth, that people are complicated, that love is harder than hate, but worth the effort, that changing the world starts with changing yourself. Pretty heavy lessons for a baby, she smiled. They'll have time to learn. Below them, the river flowed dark and endless. On both banks, settlements thrived, trading, talking, building something new from the ruins of old hatred. It wasn't perfect. It never would be. But it was better than what came before. And sometimes, better was enough. Kael pulled Ilara close, both of them looking out over the territories that had tried so hard to keep them apart. Was it worth it? He asked. Everything we went through, everyone we lost, was it worth it? Ilara thought about Darius, about the soldiers who died in battles that accomplished nothing, about the years of fear and exile and fighting for acceptance. Ask me again in 20 years, she said, when our kid is grown and the war is just a story they read about instead of a reality they live. Then I'll have an answer. Fair enough? They stood together as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Two people who'd chosen love over loyalty, truth over tradition, peace over the easy comfort of inherited hatred. Their story didn't end the war, didn't solve every problem or heal every wound, but it proved that change was possible, that courage sometimes meant putting down your weapons instead of picking them up, that the bravest act wasn't dying for your beliefs, but living for something better. And in a world that had known nothing but conflict for generations, that was more than revolutionary. It was hope. The kind of hope that couldn't be killed with swords or arrows or centuries of programming. The kind that survived because people chose it, again and again, even when choosing it hurt. Kael and Ilara walked down from the tower hand in hand, heading back to the community they'd built, the life they'd fought for, the future they'd proven was possible. Behind them, the tower stood as testament to where they'd been. Ahead, their child waited to be born into a world where Arden and Vieramont no longer automatically meant enemy. And somewhere in between, in the messy, complicated, beautiful present, two families who'd spent generations hating each other were learning, slowly, painfully, imperfectly, to live. Not in harmony. That was fairy tale thinking, but in coexistence, in mutual respect, in the acknowledgement that the person across the river was exactly that, a person, worth knowing, worth protecting, worth choosing over the comfortable certainty of war. The stars came out one by one, indifferent to the dramas playing out below. The river kept flowing, carrying away the blood and the history and the old stories that no longer defined them. And two people who should never have met, should never have fallen in love, should never have survived. Survived. Built. Changed everything. Not perfectly. Not completely. But enough. And sometimes enough was exactly what the world needed.